Today's episode is brought to you by the law firm of Harmony and Hanrahan, who specialize in waterway litigation. Harmony and Hanrahan will get you back on the water.
Life jackets are stored in overhead racks on the second deck and in storage boxes on the top deck. Instructions for donning life jackets are located around the vessel.
Episode 11.
Unbelievable.
We made it.
Seems like we were just at 9.
Yeah. Do you have any fun facts about the number 11?
I don't. I mean,
I know that 11 is what you turn it to when you want to make it really loud.
super loud. It's the first, like, it's a numeric palindrome, right? Because it's 1, 1. I don't know.
Oh, yes. Also called a rep digit.
It's a what?
Also called a rep digit, I think. You know, it's
Why
the
is that?
first repeated digit. But
Interesting.
that's the same palindrome. Okay.
Yeah.
I had one more fact. Oh, the Canadian loonie. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that coin.
No, it sounds funny, though. That's a funny name for a currency, right? Like, you don't think of currency being named
absurd.
something silly. Like, yeah.
Yeah. Must have a loon on it. 11 sides on that baby.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well,
Interesting and totally unrelated to what we
completely
do
unrelated,
here.
but we are teetering on factoids about the episode number.
Well, you seem to know your facts about numbers, like what's a which one's a prime, which one's a this,
Basic stuff. Yeah. Anyways, episode 11 is exciting.
It was super exciting, but also kind of sad.
Yeah, we're getting close to the end of the season.
Yeah, we only do 12 in a season, and I always start to feel a little nostalgic as we get toward the end.
I'm already nostalgic for last week's Andrea Doria. Can I tell you that the minute that we completed our pod last week, and again, for people who don't know, I am unaware of the ship that you will be presenting. You're unaware of the ship I will be presenting. So it's all new material as we learn in real time. I spent quite a bit of time looking at photos of the Andrea Doria and diving pretty deep. Fantastic story. Unbelievable photos, though.
You sent me some great. Sent me a photo of Linda Morgan, the 14-year-old who broke her arm.
I
and
had to
wound
look her
on
up.
Yeah, and she's still out there. She's
Looks
still,
great.
Yeah,
And Harry Trask.
Harry Trask, the Pulitzer Prize winning photographer.
You know, we do a lot of historic shipwrecks in which they happened hundreds, if not thousands of years ago. So, of course, there are no photographs. But when you do a ship like the Andrea Doria, and then you get to see the photos of the ship actually sinking,
Yeah.
it's insane. And the funny thing, well, again, funny not being humorous, but the irony of it being such a beautiful Italian, like, crafted ship, it's like with the art, it's truly amazing.
Yeah, and that's the one that goes down. And as you said, the one with the duct tape on the front is the one that
Still
continues
hauling grain
operating
across the
a little
Atlantic.
bit. Yeah.
You know what I mean? But the funny thing,
Yeah.
or again, not funny, the thing about the Andrea Doria is it had all these highfalutin people. It had the fancy carvings, I'm sure, throughout. So what a drag that it went down.
Yeah. Another fun fact. Remember that one of the guys that was on that ship was half of a songwriting team, which wrote some Elvis
Stoller and Liebler.
hits.
Yes.
And he gets rescued. And then when he's met at the dock in New York, he's met by the other half of that songwriting duo. And the guy says, hey, Hound Dog is number one in the nation.
No.
A guy named Elvis Presley is singing
Oh,
it.
you
And
gotta be
Mike
kidding me.
Stoller says, Elvis who?
Oh my God. You've got to be kidding me.
Because it had been a big hit for Big Mama Thornton.
Wow.
Or at least, I don't know if it was a big hit, but she was known for it. And then Elvis re-recorded it, and it just took off.
Unbelievable. And the tie into the Andrea Doria.
The other fun fact that we discovered later, Cary Grant's wife also rescued from the Andrea Doria, and
Yes.
she was the one who introduced Cary Grant to LSD.
Unbelievable. You know, you think of introductions. My wife introduced me to her ex-boyfriend. It was awkward. And in this case, she introduced him to LSD.
And it wound up being a lifelong relationship. He was quite fond of that particular substance.
You know, let me also remind you in particular that this is the last shipwreck I'm presenting this season. This is it.
Yeah. And do we need to let the listeners in on our plans for next season? The Shipwrecks may go on hiatus for this season.
Well, I think we've teased just a little bit. And again, people need to listen closely in order to glean some of this information. But we have alluded to the fact that killer biographies could be the next brainstorm production. What do you think? I don't know.
I think it's a great idea, and I'm just happy that we'll still be in the Brainstorm family of podcasts.
Yes, not switching platforms, staying
Exactly.
put. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
like our deal. I like our deal at the new
I'm
place.
perfectly happy. And it sounds like we're accruing sponsors, with the law firm. So great stuff. But let's get into this week. I started the season, if you recall, with the San
The
Jose.
San Jose.
And
1708. I remember
yes.
everything about it. Wagers action.
So that was, as you aptly mentioned prior to me even informing the audience, it was a Spanish galleon. And what was specific to that shipwreck was the crazy amount of gold and
Yeah.
silver coins. I
And
mean, that was like
emeralds.
ridiculous.
Had
Emeralds from South America. Yeah,
Yeah.
so that was super cool. So here we are. This is my last ship of
In
the season.
fact, if I could have one ship, I feel like a Spanish galleon might be my choice. How about you?
I love them. I mean, I just find them to be super exotic. Not so long ago where I feel like, wait, what were they wearing? Shoes? Like when it's thousands of years ago where I got to envision something
Yeah,
I can't relate
exactly.
to. The Spanish Armada, like those ships, it's like, a few hundred years, not completely different. They're still playing backgammon.
Or how about a melee ship? Do you think you could go into
Wow.
a shipyard nowadays and say, look, I want to order like a melee ship?
Right.
Do you
Especially
guys
for
do
like a
that?
small lake. Yeah.
Havasu. You know what? We try it out on Havasu
Havasu.
first. We sort of like, figure it out. We board a few pleasure craft.
Right.
And then if it's going well, we take it out on the ocean.
Hey, pontoon boat, we're here for that beer. And we're a warship. So you might want to turn that over right quick.
Do you think enough time has passed that we could use that boat name, The Bad Meeting?
I would so resurrect. In fact, if I ever were to own a boat, it's going to be called The Bad Meeting because there's no better name. Still my favorite name of any ship we've covered at all.
Yeah.
All right, but let's get into this week. So I'm back in what I want to say is sort of like, returning to the beginning, squaring the circle, if you will, but essentially going back to the roots of this season. First episode, I'm back with another Spanish ship.
Wow. Love those. So what are we talking? Are we talking like 1700s, 1600s?
Even later, but close. We're at 1804.
1804.
That's the year that the ship actually that we're going to cover today sank. It sank in 1804. Now, let me give you, as has also become part of my template, if you will, the context of 1804.
Yeah.
So let's just quickly set the context of 1804 because now we're going to talk about something that was unearthed from the ocean from 1804, brought up recently. So 1804 was, incidentally, a leap year.
You've got to be kidding me.
I'm not kidding you.
Why do you always get the ships that went down
completely inadvertent? Anyways, 1804 was the year that Haiti gained independence from France. So when we think of Haiti, that became the first Black republic in 1804.
Yeah, wasn't that the first, maybe only, but I don't like the first fully successful slave rebellion?
You are correct. Part of what happened in 1804, in parallel with Haiti gaining its independence from France, was what was known as the Haiti Massacre. And that was the ethnic cleansing that included eradicating the entire white population on Haiti. So that was going on in Haiti.
And that does sound very aggressive and everything, but probably, the French had it coming. And then the other thing to be said is I recall some journalism recently pointing out that there was some weird deal where for years afterward, like maybe going even into present times, Haiti was having to pay some sort of reparations to France, which is insane.
Yeah, that seems like the double reverse got you. Like what?
Yeah, they got screwed. Okay. Is this like Thomas Jefferson time or is this?
Unbelievable. And again, you have a knack for understanding the exact time period. You are correct. Thomas Jefferson actually in 1804 won the presidential election. So we got his second term was technically awarded in 1804. But now one of the things that I love about 1804 And when I say I love it, I don't love it, but it's a great story. Was when Aaron Burr shot Alexander Hamilton in that famous duel. That happened
Yeah.
in 1804.
Yeah.
Also 1804, given we have Jefferson in office, was when Lewis and Clark set out on the expedition that they became so famous for.
Yeah, and they got, what's her name to help out with the,
Is that
Sacagawea?
Sacagawea?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a tough name. I think Pocahontas trips off the tongue a little better
Prefer
than
that. I
Sacagawea.
prefer Pocahontas, and in fact, self-admittedly, like I get them confused.
Yeah. And we've name checked Pocahontas a few times so far, but this is
She's
our
come up with Clark.
first
Yeah.
time with Sacagawea on the show, so we wanna welcome her.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm sure a great story worthy of her own pod story.
Killer biography.
Other quick facts on 1804 as we wrap it up with 1804. Nathaniel Hawthorne was born.
Okay.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, very
right?
cool.
1804, like Hawthorne, like imagine him as a baby.
Mhm.
Like, knowing what he's going to end up writing, you're like,
Yeah.
Hawthorne's like in a crib, little baby Hawthorne.
Yeah.
And then
Honey, our baby has a very serious sort of dour expression on his face. Is everything okay? He's already pondering stuff.
please get him a quill. I think he has something to say that he can't verbalize, but maybe on paper. What a wonderful, I love Hawthorne. Anyways, on the death side, we had Immanuel Kant.
Oh,
If
that's
you've gone to college, you probably were forced to read a little bit of this.
a little
German
bit.
philosophy.
I could
Yeah.
not make heads or tails out of it. But I'm still sorry to hear that he passed in 1804.
But, Hawthorne was a little, like a little baby.
Yeah. Well, it's the
Nathaniel
circle of
Hawthorne.
life. You've got Hawthorne coming in and you got Kant on his way out.
All right, so here we are. Now, let's get into this ship story. So, in 1802, which is 2 years prior
Sure.
to the ship sinking, which I've alluded to, back in Spain, the head of the Navy received a letter and he was informed of these large quantities of treasure down in Peru, in Lima, that he said, if you send a few warships, we can load all the treasure on these warships and we're good to go.
Perfect.
But there's a lot of treasure here. We should get it back to Spain.
Fantastic. I mean, it feels like they probably came and they brought to the natives like venereal disease, smallpox, things like that. And then on the way back, they take the treasure. So it doesn't feel like a fair swap.
Not here to judge.
Yeah.
So you know where this is going. And again, this is 1802. So it's 2 years prior to the event we're going to be speaking. And compared to today, I feel like this is happening in slow motion.
Well, I mean, already when you said he receives a letter, it's like, oh my God.
Oh yeah, 2 years later. It's like, wait,
Yeah.
what? 2 years? Like, so
Yeah, and it was in the saddlebags of 5 different donkeys on its way to the boat, and then, send some boats.
everything's sort of so slow that it's like, it's not like Bitcoin. And again, there's no post office. That
Okay.
letter probably took 6 months. It's like, oh, I hope you're enjoying your spring. It's like, dude, it's Christmas. A few warships were dispatched to Lima to pick up the treasure. Now, quick side note, although they were at peace, so Spain was not at war with anyone, technically, at the time. They were at peace with England in particular. England, for its part, maintained what they called a policy of harassment, which to me, when your policy is harassment, I mean, I appreciate the transparency of the policy, but it seems also like, why are you doing this policy?
I don't know. Do you think so? Maybe religion's part of it. Like Spain and France, a lot of Catholics, and then maybe in England, they're
Big time. That policy of harassment towards Spain from England, they said was rooted in the fact that Spain had an alliance with France.
yeah. Now Peru is it's over there on the left side of South America. So I guess these warships they're going to have to go down all the way down there.
That would be the navigation podcast. And I haven't studied those maps, nor have I gotten a compass and tried to figure out what the winds, like where we're going.
No, but do they have to go around down whatever cape that is and then back up the left side of South America?
I could probably figure it out if I had the right navigational maps. If I had a tide watch, that'd be cool if someone wants to send me a tide watch. Anyway, so England is technically at peace with Spain, but they're pissed because Spain is kind of friends with France. So it's like, you still like the French.
Yeah, and they've got an official policy of harassment.
Yeah.
I'm going to adopt that as an official policy.
It's been my unofficial policy for most of my familial relationships. And it's interesting that now I
Yeah.
can probably just call it what it is, a true policy.
Yeah, for me, it's more judgment. Like I'm super nice to strangers, but for the people I love the most, super
I
judgmental.
bet you could probably online diagnose and treat that. I don't think that's like deep, sort of like,
Yeah.
wait, why do you like to bite the heads off lizards and feed them to your cat? Like,
Yeah, but just being super judgmental with your loved ones, AI could tell me in 2 seconds what my problem is.
totally don't think it's good.
No.
I'm just saying I think it's easily diagnosable.
Okay. All right. So there's the policy of harassment.
Although at peace. Okay, so now in 1804, the British get some intelligence, okay, from a British diplomat who's in Spain. They find out about this treasure that the Spanish are planning to pick up in South America.
Oh, wow.
The prime minister is William Pitt the Younger.
Mm.
So, yes, obvious question. His dad, William Pitt, they didn't
The
call him the
older one.
elder. William Pitt the Younger, he devised a plan. And the plan was to intercept the little flotilla of warships that were returning from South America that had all this treasure.
Yeah, sounds like a great plan.
Well, I mean, again, they weren't at war with each other. It reminds me of Al Capone. Like, right? The trucks are coming in with the whiskey. We'll intercept the trucks. We get all the whiskey.
Yeah. Just do a quick smash and grab.
Mhm.
Hey, we're not at war, but we're officially, our policy is to harass. So
We are at sea. You know our policy.
Yeah.
So, anyways, one of the ships that the Spanish sent down to pick up the treasure was called the Nuestra Señora de las Mercedes. Now, Nuestra Señora de las Mercedes.
Mhm.
Now, I'm not sure if it's Castilian. If it's Castilian, then it's Mercedes.
Mm.
If it's not Castilian, it's Mercedes. Essentially, the translation is Our Lady of Mercy.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I thought you were going to say there were a bunch of Mercedes on board, but I see what
There
you're
were
saying.
not. And I don't know if there's a tie into the car
So that's what
manufacturer.
Mercedes means. Mercy.
Yeah. Nuestra Señora de las Mercedes. It's a 36-gun Spanish frigate, and it was part of this small flotilla at the time sailing from Uruguay to Spain.
Okay, so they had already picked up the treasure?
So they picked up the treasure, and the treasure consisted primarily of coins, silver and gold,
Oh,
but
man.
also had cinnamon and quinoa. Okay, so
Okay.
and your reaction is exactly mine. It was like, wait, what's with the
Yeah,
quinoa?
Keep the quinoa, you can keep the cinnamon. That's cool.
There's definitely someone back in Spain that's like, please tell me they didn't recover the quinoa. It's a grain. It's a seed, dude. It's no one wants to eat that. It's so bland. But so I'm guessing some people were like, whatever, we lost the quinoa. That's the bad news or the good news.
Yeah.
Come on. Still, they had all these coins, gold, silver.
Oh, man.
And it's almost like they had so many coins, because there was no electronic transfer in 1804. There was no like type in, like get
Venmo.
the password, and then
Yeah.
it's like 1000.
Yeah.
So it was all coins.
Oh, I imagine them in like, big wood chests and stuff,
Treasure,
Yeah.
right? So anyways, they are hauling over 1 million coins.
Oh, Lord.
Over 1 million
Oh,
coins.
boy.
On the ship, but also the quinoa.
And some cinnamon. I mean, I guess if you dress up the quinoa with some of the cinnamon, then that helps a little bit.
Right. So other things that were on board, because, this is 1804, so they have a record of what was brought on board. So the other thing that they brought on board was related to medicine.
Oh, God.
Okay. So from South America, they took the cinchona tree, and that's from like the Amazon basin. And essentially that's what was used to create quinine.
Oh,
I'm probably not pronouncing that correctly.
Yeah, which quinine, I think. But what's they
Quinine,
use for
from the husk of the plant.
is that used for malaria?
That is exactly what it's
Yeah.
used for. So it's against diseases like malaria. So they were
Okay, so that's cool.
bringing plant so that they could, develop that.
Yeah, so it's like, okay, you guys, never mind the quinoa and the cinnamon, but mainly the coins, but also, yeah, give me the quinine.
Right. How much do I have to pay you to take this quinoa off our boat? Because I know you don't want, but it's like, it's better than rice, dude. It's better for your heart. Anyways, they also, in addition to the quinine, as you correctly pronounced, they had what's called Ratania extract, which is a medicinal plant. It grows in South America, and it has a very high tannin content. So it's become a very powerful astringent, like an antiseptic. They found for this ship a shipment of this Ratania plant that was addressed to a guy named Hipólito Ruiz.
Love that name. That's a good name.
He's a botanist. And guess what? Hipólito, we got a package for you.
We got your Retania plant.
So he's a botanist who introduced this drug to Europe. So he played a big part of, what became modern medicine in Europe. Anyways, this flotilla with this cargo is headed back to Spain. And along the coast of Portugal, it's intercepted.
Oh, so it gets across the ocean.
It does. It's now across, and it's near Portugal. So it's heading home.
Wow.
Yeah. But again, it's the British.
Yeah, because they get the intelligence. But I mean, you already made the point.
So they know when they're coming.
Yeah, but you already made the point about, it's the old days. They didn't have internet. They didn't have cell phones. So would love to know more about that intelligence. And then also it's like, even if you get the tip, it's like, you don't know what day the boat's going to, I mean, that's still hard to locate it. Okay.
I agree. I mean, it's a feat. All this stuff, as you said, it happens over the span of 2 years. So it's like, are you guys ready? Okay, we'll see you in 6 months.
When you say a flotilla, or is this like, 3 ships, 5?
3 to 4 boats. And so they're coming back. They're along the coast of Portugal, and they're intercepted by the Royal Navy Task Force. Ironically, Graham Moore, who's the commander of the HMS Indefatigable.
Yeah.
That's literally their name. The HMS Indefatigable. Can you imagine the guy who came up with that name?
That's a crap name. Indefatigable.
That's going to be appropriate.
That's a
that's
terrible name for a boat.
Compared to the bad meeting,
Yeah.
you might be better at the compass, but that's a terrible name.
A bad meeting would have you guys for breakfast.
Every day of the week.
It's almost annoying that great ship with all the coins and with the sexy Spanish name, de Mercedes,
Yes.
and then it's the Indefatigable that takes her down.
But you're exactly right. The Spanish commanding officer of the Mercedes, he was Brigadier Jose de Bustamante y Guerra. He objected. So he said, hold on, we're at peace.
Yeah.
We don't need to do this. Like we're not at war. Our countries are at peace. So we're not going to comply with your order.
He objected.
Yeah, he objected to just losing his entire.
I object.
Actually, we're not at war. So what are you guys doing? Is this are you robbing us?
I'd like to file an official protest.
So how do you think the English responded?
You know what? We'll give you the quinoa. We'll call it a day. We go our separate ways. No harm, no foul. Here's some quinoa. If you want to drive a hard bargain, I'll throw in a little bit of cinnamon.
We have a few coins. Do you like quinoa? We have so much quinoa. And it's like, do you guys
this is the true treasure of South America. Right. Quinoa.
Have you ever heard of quinine? Okay.
Yeah.
We're going to give you a year's worth of quinoa and some quinine, or the husk. And you can figure out how to make it from there. But still.
We got some Retania's plant. Yeah, we got it all.
All right. So we have the Spanish commanding officer saying dude, out of our way. We're not at war. Peace.
There's no war here.
We need to get through. I've got quinoa on board. These are seeds. And so he's like, no way. The English respond. How do you think they respond?
They say, well, that makes good sense. You're right. We're not at war. Why don't you just go on your merry way?
Exactly. And they do the opposite. They decide to start a battle. So the English ship, a different ship, the Amphion, they launch. This is 5 minutes into the battle because it's clear what's going to happen. They launch one single cannon shot, and unfortunately,
kind of a warning shot, or they actually hit.
Well, a little bit like a hit shot. Like, we're going to get you once. It's a cannonball, but it hits exactly where the gunpowder is stored.
Now, was that a lucky strike, or that's what they were aiming for?
Pure luck is my assumption, because again, tools. Not so sophisticated. So you are just kind of launching a cannonball. But regardless, it causes the La Mercedes to immediately explode and sink.
Jesus.
So it sunk within 15 minutes.
Wow.
Just off the coast of Portugal.
Just imagine the dude that fired that cannonball. It's like that is the greatest shot you ever fired.
I will never buy a round at any English pub ever for the rest of my life. Yeah. Because I just took out that Spanish galleon loaded with 1 million coins.
I mean, one shot and the whole thing exploded.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. Now, on the downside,
there's a lot of downside.
Yeah, because well, we haven't even gotten into the death toll, but I assume that the English wanted to get their hands on those coins, but if the ship
Well,
goes down,
too late. Exactly. The ship goes
yeah,
down.
sure,
So, they weren't thinking so much at the time that they were going to end up causing the ship to sink that quickly.
right,
So, when you say they were aiming, they weren't necessarily aiming to do that. They were
yeah,
aiming to take over. And so, when the other ships saw what happened, then they sort of ended up letting the British kind of take over.
yeah, I would too. It's like, whoa.
So they were seized. Those ships were seized by England. So the other ships in the flotilla,
And do you think they had treasure on them as well?
not nearly what was
Mm.
contained on the famous La Merced.
Yeah, of course, it's the one with the massive store of treasure that goes down.
It's so insane, like the amount of coins. It literally
Oh
over a
man, you're
million.
just doing this to get me all
We
amped
say
up.
shiny coins, I believe that was okay. This
Yeah.
is like epic. But on the downside, because there is a downside, right? We
Mhm.
lost a ship here. 250 Spanish crewmen died, went
Oh,
down on the ship.
really?
250.
There's a lot of ships in the area. I would have thought maybe some would get rescued either by friend or
This
foe.
was very violent.
Yeah,
Like the way in which the ship went down that
yeah.
quickly, 250 were lost. 51
Hmm.
survived and were rescued from the sea. And they were taken as prisoners.
Wow, so that's a lot of death. 250.
It's a lot, that's a big percentage.
Any idea how close they are to the coast of Portugal?
I think they said 120 miles.
Oh, okay, not super close.
So not super close, not
All right.
swimmable,
Yeah.
unless you're like,
Unless you're Diana Nyad. Wasn't that
right?
the lady that was always trying to swim from
Yes, exactly,
Cuba
from
to
Cuba.
Florida?
Right? She made it how long? I don't know.
She eventually made it, I think. I mean, she was doing it still in her 60s or 70s.
It's incredible. It's
Yeah.
incredible. Like hats off. I'm not getting in a cold pool.
Do we have a specific date in 1804 when it goes
It's
down?
October, like October 5th, I
October.
believe.
Man, that's
Yeah.
another common thread in this
In
season.
the fall.
Been a lot of October wrecks
Yeah, I know. It is kind
and
of a
leap
drag.
years.
Leap
years,
years.
October.
Yeah.
Does this one involve Tom Hanks at all or no?
Don't recall him being a part of any of the remakes, but not sure.
Yeah, he feels like a guy that would be in a movie where one of the ships is called the Indefatigable.
So that ship gets sunk. Now, her
Mm.
wreck, the La Mercedes, in modern times is compared with the USS Arizona at
Yeah, I
Pearl
was going
Harbor.
to say, as soon as you mentioned the Mercedes, I know that that's been a holy grail for years of
Yes.
people trying to find that one.
Huge. And they compare it to the Arizona because, first of all, the tremendous loss of life instantly that happened, and also the fact that it was unprovoked. So Spain was not doing anything to provoke Britain. They were just heading back to port. And the countries were not at
They were
war.
just bringing back the stuff they stole from the natives in
A few
South
coins, some
America.
quinoa, and some medicinal plants. Like, can you
Yeah.
just let us go?
Yeah.
That, oh gosh, Lizzie,
Lord.
I mean,
Okay. Got to pay the bills.
gotta pay the
Got to keep
bills.
the lights on.
True story. All right, let's hear from Harmony, the wonderful law firm actually secured by Lizzie. Let's give
Yeah.
her credit where credit is
Harmony and
due.
Hanrahan. I wonder if they got in on. Well, I don't want to jump the gun. I was going to say if there's any litigation from Mercedes, I wonder if Harmony and Hanrahan got their little mitts into it.
All right, talk about teasing what's coming next. Let's go
Well,
to
people will
Harmony.
just have to listen through the commercial.
Let's get to Harmony, and then I'll see you in the courtroom.
Nothing ruins a day on the water like getting cited for operating while impaired. This happens to you or a loved one. Call Harmony and Hanrahan. With offices in both Spring Hill and Bayport, Harmony and Hanrahan specializes in waterway litigation. This includes unlawful boat repossessions, riparian rights, disputed access points, and boats jeopardized by divorce proceedings or regulatory action. Harmony and Hanrahan will get you back on the water.
Apropos to have Harmony involved in this episode because we're about to take a turn towards the litigation.
Oh, great. You know what I was going to say? Speaking of people getting cited for operating while impaired, I think one of your favorite old Blackhawks, Dustin Bufflin, once
wow.
racked up an arrest for driving while impaired.
Yeah, well, that could have been also applied on the ice. He was a very tough player.
He was a tough guy.
Player.
Oh.
Wow.
And a scuttlebutt was he wouldn't take the breath test, or he wouldn't do the blood test or something because he had also been doing coke that day. But
Yeah, well, not a role model.
happens.
Not all hockey players are role models.
Are they bringing any Coke back from South America?
No, this is really confined to the coins. And so many coins, it literally is like Vegas times a million when you look at the number of coins that were on that ship. It's like, wait, you got to be kidding me. Like,
Yeah.
what lottery? So, anyways, let's flash forward 200 years. So, we know that the ship went down in 1804. Okay?
Right.
1804, all of those coins, we're literally speaking about over 1 million coins.
Yeah, so the guy who fired that cannon is like super happy for about 5 seconds, and then when it immediately goes under, he's like, oh.
Totally boff that. Like, whoops, god darn
Yeah.
it.
I mean, that's a treasure that can change a nation's fortunes. You know what I mean?
Dare I say, a subject of killer biographies? The guy who fired the shot that sunk $1 billion?
Yeah, we'll look into it. He's not the only one who gets in trouble. The captain of his ship has some explaining to do when he gets back to England.
You're quick to spread the blame, but I put it on the guy who fired that shot.
Yeah.
Anyways, let's flash forward to 2007.
2007. It sat underwater for 203 years.
You are correct.
How about that?
Now, there's a company
Oh, God.
that reported having found something.
No, don't tell me.
I'm really sorry to tell you, yet it's entirely appropriate that it's the Odyssey Marine Exploration
For a
Company.
company that finds so many valuable wrecks, how can their share price be so absurdly low?
I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you what a horrible company this is. But, and again, I'm not your financial advisor.
Yeah. I would be in so much better shape if you were.
I literally would have talked you out of investing in this company. Like, in fact, I would have gone to the mat to make sure that I would have involved your wife. Like, it would have been that level of like, no, you're not allowed to do this.
Okay.
Had I known, of course I had
Well,
no
I
idea.
appreciate that. I mean,
Right.
that's bitter medicine to take, but you would have been justified to go straight to the boss.
I'm just being honest. I'm just being totally honest.
Okay, so Odyssey Marine claims that they've found it. Does that turn out to be true?
You're even more generous than you should be. They don't claim to find anything. They claim to find something that they have now codenamed Black Swan.
Black Swan.
Now, Odyssey says, hey, we recovered over 500,000 silver and gold coins that are valued at over $500 million, and we've now taken them to the United States. Now, we're not telling you where it's from, but we're telling you this is what we've recovered from the shipwreck that we discovered.
Well, that would be a short list. I mean, people keep track of shipwrecks. So as soon as they give that number of coins and that value, did people start to say, well, that's got to be the Mercedes?
Yeah, so a lot of people were speculating on the recovered coins, and they were saying things like, okay, they also have some copper ingots. This strongly suggests...
Yeah, put that in the pile with the quinoa. Like, I don't need the copper ingots.
Can you guys put the quinoa to the side, please? The colonial era Spanish ships that sank, had this minted silver from South America. That's usually going to Spain.
Yeah.
So people speculated. Now, initially, they thought it was from the wreck of an English merchant ship called the Merchant Royal, which sank in 1641, by the way. But that quickly kind of made no sense.
Is that true, though? So they got all the coins and brought them back to America?
They did.
Wow.
Yeah.
What? Any details about how deep down it was or anything like that? Was it a difficult wreck to get to?
Not particularly. It was more difficult in terms of how much searching you had to do to find it. So in 2005, incidentally, one of the co-founders of Odyssey Marine, a guy named Greg Stem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I know all about him.
He admitted to the British shipwreck expert Richard Larne that his firm, Odyssey, was searching for the Merchant Royal. So that was that English ship they were looking for. And he was really looking for that. But then in 2009, he put the Odyssey crew in a television show for the Discovery Channel called Treasure Quest. And pictures of the coins that the Odyssey had retrieved, which had a lot of their markings obscured to prevent identification. This is what Odyssey was doing, was making sure no one could tell where the coins were from.
Well, that's no fun. So they were making them blurry.
Yes.
I mean, that's the whole point. You want to see good detail.
Well, especially you want to know the history of and provenance of the coin. But anyway, so
I want to know if I can get one on eBay, but go ahead.
Let's get to that in a minute. But first, experts started examining the edges of the coins.
Wow.
And they were able, based on the edges, to determine they came from the middle of the 18th century. So they were definitely too late to be that merchant royal ship that Odyssey said they
Gotcha.
were looking for.
Hmm.
So then, rare coin expert, and again, there's always a rare coin expert.
But again, that feels like something from a Hardy Boys book. But go ahead.
So the rare coin expert said, this is an unprecedented find. There's nothing equal or comparable to it. It's incredible. So
what was with the weird like code name Black Swan? I mean, I know that a Black Swan event is like a 1 in a million event. Is that
right? Well, ultimately, what Odyssey was trying to do is obscure the fact that they had come about finding a Spanish ship. And they didn't want to deal with maritime law and the fact of the provenance of the coins. And they kind of wanted to just keep all the coins.
It's definitely in international waters, though, if it's that far off the coast. But even being in international waters, it's not going to protect you from the claims of both Spain and then maybe even Peru.
And you could not be more spot on. And again, perhaps because of your legal background.
Dude, I should go to work for Harmony and Hanrahan. I've got a knack for this stuff.
I'm starting to think we're gonna the podcast is gonna lose you to that firm, and it's super annoying. And I actually forbid it. In fact, we're gonna have to put something in your contract.
Yeah. Okay.
You stick to what you do. Anyway, so but you're raising the interesting point, and I remember even in that very first or second episode, you mentioning that you also enjoy hearing about the litigation involved in the shipwreck.
Absolutely.
So this shipwreck has that, and so the salvage law in international waters, which, as you correctly describe, is where they discovered these coins. Is recognized by some English-speaking countries that 90% of the recovered treasure should go to the salvage firm.
So how did Odyssey screw this up?
Okay, hold on.
But this feels like this should be a success story.
So Spain says that the entire ownership should be them of the wreck and the cargo. And they're saying, I'm not paying any salvage award because the cargo of the Mercedes was protected by sovereign immunity, which, by the way, in their opinion, supersedes admiralty law. Okay, but just as you indicated, in Peru, because a lot of the recovered coins were minted in Lima.
Yeah, and I'm betting it wasn't in a union shop. I mean, I'm betting it's people working in some crappy conditions who mined that metal and, then minted it.
You like to push the boundaries of could we put political in the tags of what type of show we do, but we're not doing
for
that.
this one we can. Okay, go ahead. So Peru, they want in on the game too.
Peru says, you know what? That treasure's ours.
100% of it?
Not 100%, but they want something.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the coins were minted in Peru.
Did you notice that crafty Spaniards are like, yep, 100%'s ours. That's our starting position. It's all ours. Whereas the Peru are like...
But Odyssey is saying 90%. Because they're saying salvage law.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's apparently a standard salvage.
Yeah, just give me a percentage.
Yeah.
Whatever. 90%.
Okay. So you got at least three parties battling here. You got Odyssey Marine Exploration Company, Spain, Peru.
Spain says, you know what? I understand what you're saying, Peru. Out of a sense of what they say, common cultural heritage.
We destroyed your culture.
We will share a lot of these coins with you, Peru.
I want to see the fine print. Well, what does sharing mean? Like, what are we talking?
That's not your jurisdiction. So there's no need to see the fine print. I'm telling you. They're willing to share some of the treasure out of a sense of common cultural heritage. However, Peru, as well as some of the descendants of the merchants who happen to actually have shipped those coins and cargo, are like, hold on a second, Spain.
No.
And hold on a second, Odyssey.
No, wait, are there actual descendants?
Yes. Yes. This becomes like the mother lode of legal entanglements. It's like they have a record of the dude who sent the plant who wants to introduce the medicine. Like, hold on, I had a patent. Hello, it's quinine.
Yeah.
What?
This is the problem with the Odyssey Marine Exploration business model is they come out of the woodwork. When you find a wreck, everybody wants their little slice.
And we know Harmony is not necessarily the world's biggest firm, yet obviously they can afford to sponsor our podcast. But when you look at the litigation involved in just this one shipwreck.
Is it still going? Or has it all been wrapped up?
Okay, so Odyssey immediately was sued by the Spanish government because the Spanish government was like, hold on, Odyssey, you just took a Spanish ship's treasure and walked off and took it to America. What? So they're asking for the treasure to immediately be returned to Spain. So that becomes Odyssey Marine Exploration
Cool.
versus the Kingdom of Spain. I don't know if that was in your prospectus.
No, they never mentioned this. When I was buying thousands of shares in that company, they never mentioned
Right.
this.
Prior to investing, we want to disclose that we are in a lawsuit with the Kingdom of
No,
Spain.
I think all they said was, "Hey, we found the Black Swan ship," and I was like, "All right, let's do it."
Hello. Black Swan sounds awesome. Sounds like mysterious and really super lucrative. Anyways, they deposited all of the artifacts and
Oh, so they did. They shipped them back to Spain?
they shipped them to the National Museum of Aquatic Archaeology.
Oh, where is that?
In
That's
Cartagena.
cool.
Yeah.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds amazing. I'm surprised that Uruguay didn't try to get in on this too. Like, you know what? They left from we were the last port they left from.
Yeah, I probably didn't go too deep on the litigation. Maybe Uruguay was there.
Yeah, I'll let you get on with the
I
tale.
went to like the semifinals. You know what I mean? Like I'm not going to the earlier rounds of litigation.
Okay.
We're going a little bit later. So Odyssey, they're dealing with the Spanish government, right? In the US courts. Like the Spanish government is literally suing Odyssey in the US court system.
Damn it. Okay.
And they're demanding the treasures returned to Spain. So again, they lose. They just keep losing. And eventually they literally appeal to the Supreme Court.
Wait, Odyssey did?
Yes.
Oh man.
Not sure if this is in your perspective.
No, but it's starting to explain the share price today.
On February 9th, 2012, the U.S. Supreme Court declined to hear an emergency application for a stay filed by Odyssey Marine.
Frickin' Supremes.
It wanted to maintain possession of over $500 million worth of gold and silver coins until a final decision is made about who owns them. It just wanted to hold on to them.
Yeah, that's all. That's all we're saying.
Just holding them.
Yeah.
Why are you mad at that? Anyways, Clarence Thomas was the justice who had jurisdiction over this application because it did come from Florida, which is where Odyssey is. He denied without comment. So he just said, no, Supreme Court not going to take this case.
Clarence, buddy.
Could have helped your stock price.
So are you saying this is a done deal now? Like I'm never going to get a bump in the share price of the shares that I own? Like the Black Swan is gone. It belongs to Spain?
You should be so lucky. I'm worried about your legal exposure. Let me say that in February, 14.5 tons of cargo, which is primarily made up of gold and silver.
February of what year?
2012, right after they lost this last-ditch effort at the Supreme Court.
All right.
14 tons of silver and gold coins are flown back to Spain.
Oh,
Okay,
no.
So then they're like, and I don't know if this is reminiscent of anything, but they're like, are those all the coins? Or Odyssey, do you have anything else to tell us? Like, are there any other coins? Like, that's 14.5 tons. That's a lot of coins.
Literally like a parent, like talking to a kid.
But you're not quite.
Is that are those all the cookies we took?
Coins, right? You gave us all the coins, right? It turns out a small number of coins were also deposited in Gibraltar. And Odyssey kind of forgot about it or whatever.
Wait, that's so weird.
Yeah.
So how does all that work? They shipped them all at one time, but they did a stop off in Gibraltar?
They had initially deposited a small number of the coins in Gibraltar.
Oh.
Like near Spain or whatever. So then they ultimately determined that the coins that were deposited in Gibraltar belonged to that same shipwreck. So Odyssey had to give those up. So those returned to Spain in 2013. And that's when the court ordered Odyssey to return them.
Now, what about Peru? Does it ever get any of the coins?
They do get some coins, but in significant amount. So once all the coins are returned to Spain, Spanish law dictates that they can never be sold to the public.
Oh,
you're not going to get them on eBay.
This story keeps getting worse.
I'm sorry.
I mean, that's silly. So they just sit in a museum somewhere?
Yeah, but they're incredible.
I know,
No,
but
you're not going to buy them.
What do you need with 14 tons of them in a museum?
That's what I'm saying. When you see the number of coins, it looks like a joke from Vegas of like someone winning a slot machine. It's like, what are all these?
How in the world do they keep that museum from getting knocked off?
I don't know. But let me tell you that in 2015, and again, I'm not here to harp on the Odyssey, right? Like I wish you well. I would never, had I known anything about this company, I would have gotten involved, like in your personal life, to make sure that you didn't invest in this company. But again, maybe they're great, and I hope it all works out.
For those listeners who have not listened to the entire catalog of this season's episodes, I will point out that not only do I own an obscene number of shares in the Odyssey Marine Exploration Company, and not only have I lost thousands of dollars on that company, but Now as I said before, they switched to like, okay, we're not having a lot of success with these ships. Even when we do find them, it just litigate. So now we're going to try to harvest phosphate off the floor of the ocean near Mexico, and they're getting sued for that. They're still getting sued for that. These guys could go to a cafeteria to get lunch, and they'd get sued for that.
So can I tell you where this goes? And again, I'm not here to disparage anybody, but I forget the guy's name, the co-founder of the Odyssey. The next thing I'm going to hear from you is like, oh, this dude's like he's sleeping on my couch. He said he just needs to stay somewhere for a week to figure out the new business plan.
No, he'd be persona non grata.
He's going to show up and he's going to be like, Kit, you own 12 million shares of my company. I'm going to give you another 20 million.
The sad truth is it would take about 30 seconds if he was like, but hold on, dude, let me tell you about this other shipwreck we're looking for. I'd be like,
dude, get the heck out. What'd you say? Did you just say the Baltic? There's a lot of great shipwrecks in the Baltic. Anyways, so now let's get back to the fact that Odyssey returns all the coins, right? So everything's great. Now Odyssey's like, all right, fine. We learned our lesson. No more Black Swan. We're going to be above board. We're going to do this right way. Not so fast. So 2015, the Spanish government was like, you know what? Let's do an archaeological expedition to study the shipwreck. Like this is a great shipwreck. Like we need to go check it out.
Oh, because Odyssey Marine just grabbed the coins and left.
Yes.
Okay. So the ship's still down there.
This is the crazy shipwreck. Like this is a beautiful Spanish galleon. So they went down, and what they were able to quickly prove is that Odyssey had caused significant damage to the ship when they were extracting the coins. So what they determined, they were using some sort of destructive vacuum cleaner type of device. Kind of like an industrial shop vac.
That sounds like my guys.
Kind of like an industrial shop vac, but it's like, well, no, it's fine. No, it's fine. We don't need the safety guard. Let's just put it on, put the nozzle on.
We got it at the Home Depot in Sarasota.
Right after that lawsuit, a district court in the United States ordered Odyssey to pay Spain $1 million for bad faith and abusive litigation. So they not only
so they lose 100% of the coins and then they still have to pay money?
They did, because they permanently damaged the ship with their insanity of how they picked up all the coins.
I question that. I mean, it's been underwater for 200 years. Like, how are you going to distinguish between what Odyssey Marine did and what just the natural process of deterioration?
Again, it was a U.S. district court that ruled that they had bad faith and abusive litigation in their lawsuit. So, yeah, it's not good. So then in 2017, incidentally, the Spanish Navy went down and rescued 2 of the cannons that were on the Mercedes, each one weighing 2 tons. So those are also on display.
2 tons. So that's like what, like a car from like the 80s or something.
Huge.
Weighs.
Yeah, it's like that car that was on the Andrea Doria, the
Norseman. I bet
Norseman.
That was heavy.
How cool. That looked really cool.
Yeah. I think.
All right, so now, you mentioned some of...
Wait, do we know where the museum in Spain is?
Yeah, I'll post it, or Lizzie can post it.
Because that's very cool.
It's a Spanish naval museum, and they actually have a show there in an exhibition called The Last Trip of the Frigate Mercedes, a recovered cultural treasure. And it features a lot of the photos of not only the ship that they looked at underwater, but the cannons that they brought up, and photos and examples of the coins, which I must say are incredible.
Yeah.
Truly incredible. And not just the sheer volume, but when you look at the coins, they're incredible.
I wonder, they must have cleaned them all up nice and shiny, because they probably didn't look great when you first bring them up.
You can see pictures of both. Yeah. That's what's so cool. You're exactly right. And the lighting, once they clean them up,
oh man,
like, oh my God, like how much gold was on that ship?
Well, it's amazing to me that amount of treasure sits in a museum. I really am surprised by that. I would think that there'd be some nominal amount you show the public, and then the rest goes into the Spanish treasury, or half and half between Spain and
Peru. You would think so.
Hmm.
So now, in terms of popular culture, because you mentioned in last week's show where the Andrea Doria has popped up in modern fiction, right? The Clyde Hustler and so on. So with respect to
the Mercedes.
This ship, well, and the recovery and so on, there was a fictionalized comic book that was based on this project, and it was called The Treasure of the Black Swan.
Ah.
And it was actually written by the Spanish diplomat who happened to be involved in the lawsuit.
Yeah, the Black Swan does give a sort of that makes the whole thing even more mysterious and dramatic.
For
The
sure.
code
And
name.
so then then there was a Spanish graphic novelist who, created this incredible art piece essentially.
Cool.
And that was adapted into a television series called La Fortuna.
Sweet.
Yeah. So the same year, a Spanish action film directed by Juan Balaguero called The Vault
Love his work.
basically is essentially the Black Swan story. And that was released by Sony. And then ultimately National Geographic in 2021, they did a movie called Battle for the Black Swan. And that tells the story and the discovery of the wreck.
Wait, say a movie like a documentary?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh
And it tells
man.
the whole story of the discovery of the wreck, the salvage, and obviously the disputes.
Okay, so that's probably on Discovery or something. I can
Exactly. National
pull that up.
Geographic. And so
Okay.
it won a gold medal for history and society at the 2022
Give me the
New York
title one more
Festival.
time.
It's called The Battle for the Black Swan.
Right on.
And that tells the whole discovery of the wreck.
Wow. 250 people died on that thing.
Yeah. So tragic, not tragic that they lost the quinoa. I wouldn't classify that as tragic.
Yeah, if only that had been like the last remaining quinoa. Like,
Yeah.
there's still too much quinoa in this world. But I do wonder a little bit about the fallout, back in England when it became clear, like, they muffed the job. They screwed up. They didn't.
All of the treasure is on the bottom of the ocean, and it's going to sit there for 200 years until the Odyssey brings like a Hoover and, picks it up.
It's weird. I mean, some of these things, they were trying to use diving bells and stuff. Did anybody at the time of the battle or soon after try to go down and get it? Or it was probably
not
too
that
deep?
level of research. I have a cursory understanding of the Shipwrecks.
I mean, if it's 100 miles off the coast,
It
maybe
took,
it's pretty deep.
200 and some odd years to find it. I don't know like how easy and accessible it is to get down there.
Would be pretty cool to have been the crew, the very first crew. It sounds like it was Odyssey Marine, the very first people on it who start to realize like,
Incredible.
oh God, look.
I mean, incredible because it really is like, a needle in a haystack.
14 tons of treasure. 14
when you see the number of coins, it's such sort of an inelegant way of transporting currency because you're like, what?
How have they done it in the display case? Like, are they all just like neat rows under glass things, or do they like pile it up to give you a feeling?
Various photos of all the coins.
Yeah.
Every version that you want to see is there. Yeah, it's insane. And the beauty of the coins, the close up, of the coins minted in Lima that they were able to detect based on the edging are spectacular.
Drives me crazy that they're all just sitting in the museum. 1804, the Mercedes. And it had almost got there. It had almost gone to Europe, and then the Spanish and the English were just waiting. They had good advance intelligence.
And amazing that then it sits there for 200 years.
They thought they were home free. They brought it all back to America, and they're like, "Here we go."
Well, and again, one of the reasons they were also mad at the Odyssey was that they considered that wreck a graveyard.
Oh,
and so they said the Odyssey just went down there with a Hoover, and they didn't care like what they were doing.
Yeah,
and it's like, whoa, what about the fact that you damaged the ship and had no respect for the fact that 250 people died there? It's all for the shareholders, I guess. I see your perspective.
But also feels like then you're just kind of, you're adding on causes against them. I mean, the bottom line is you were pissed that they got the coins first and took them back to America, and you want the coins. Like, let's not pretend you're so worried about some bones down there.
Spoken like an investor.
Yeah. Now, but when they brought it back to America, I'm sure they were like, why did they deposit a few of them in Gibraltar?
That was sort of like early days. I think they were like, whoa, okay, here we are. Let's put some of this in Gibraltar,
because in a way I would almost think that you would want your first stop to be back in America. Like, why put them over there somewhere in a jurisdiction where you might not get a friendly hearing?
It sounds like a question you might want to raise at the next shareholder meeting.
It's notable that the American, or, if I can talk to one of the lawyers at Harmony and Hanrahan, but it is notable, if we're looking for some silver linings here, it sounds like the American justice system was not like jingoistic and just, okay, we're going to side with the Americans here. They pretty much ruled.
Absolutely. Yes. No, it very much much paints the U.S. legal system in a very positive light, all the way up through the Supreme Court, which was like, what? No.
Yeah, they wouldn't even hear it. Clarence Thomas, just an unsigned. Yeah.
No, and I apologize to you as a shareholder. I understand it's
Yeah,
personal.
well, just a little something, a little like explanation what's going on, and just
I'm gonna have to. This will be maybe the only time, but I'm gonna have to side with Clarence here.
Yeah.
I agree with Clarence.
it's probably the correct call. I mean, I would like to know what's the breakdown, and it sounds like maybe Peru just got like a few coins off the top, and that it feels to me like it ought to be more of a 50-50, because when you really think back to the big context, it's like the Spanish did a lot of damage, and other European countries when they came to the New World, and really, they were just extracting wealth. So I hope Peru got their fair share.
Yeah, and again, slippery slope when we get into, is this a political discussion or did they
Well,
just
what's
come
right
get
is
the coins?
right.
I don't know. It's right is right. I completely agree. And again, there's a gray area there. Bottom line is a lot of good people lost their lives on
Mhm.
this ship, primarily because of an inadvertent cannonball to the magazine of the Mercedes, which just happened to land.
Just amazing. We've done this for 3 seasons.
Yes.
We haven't had the miracle bullet yet that
This
just
one
lands
was.
right perfectly in the right in the gunpowder.
Right.
It blows the ship up.
We had the miracle breeze
Yeah.
with the Vasa. That was sort of like a whisper of a
Yeah.
breeze, and it's like, why are you tipping
No,
over?
but this is like your wildest dream as a guy on the cannon crew. It's like you've never seen that before, where
Unbelievable.
you shoot one and the
Right.
whole thing blows up. It's like, what did we just do?
Just aim for the magazine, you'll never hit it. It's like, so Dr. Troyer, now next week will be episode number 12. Have you considered what ship?
I haven't finalized it. I'd really like to, if you remember
The season finale, right? Like, isn't that
it's
technically
absolutely
a
a season finale. And if we do do a hiatus and explore some biographies for a little while, that means that this could be the last shipwreck for a while.
At least for this season.
The Brainstorm family of podcasts, Brainstorm team has been great to us. They've been, so supportive
I have no
and gotten a lot of good feedback from them and resources and stuff. What I was going to say is back in the our very first season before we found Brainstorm, if you remember, 2 of the ships I did were Viking ships. I'd really like to get back to that if I could. I love Viking ships. I like the way they were built. I like the stories around them.
I do too.
So I'm going to try to get back to a Viking ship. We'll see how it goes.
I loved Hagar. You know that cartoon strip?
Yeah.
Hagar? That was one of my favorites when I was a kid because it was so ridiculous with the hat.
And a lot of those Viking ships have that special kind of manufacturing technique. They're called clinker ships, where it's like overlapping boards.
Yes.
They're just cool.
So cool.
And they're long, and they're just and remember, they would set up some of them on fire, like as a funeral pyre, and
so incredible, like so dramatic.
They did a lot of cool stuff.
Like a lot of those guys were buried in them. A lot of these were buried with their ships. They're like, screw it.
Some of them sounded like they were just straight out psychopaths, but some of the battle methods and the berserking and all that.
There was some of that.
But I'd like to get back to the Vikings if I could.
Very violent.
Great ship, the Mercedes. And I didn't even know Mercedes means mercy. Well, wait, the San Jose was worth an estimated $17 billion with a B. I wonder what this one was worth. $500 million?
They said it's a little over $500 million. Yeah, in coins.
I wonder if we're going to get to that with planets and meteors and stuff like that. Like, aren't there some planets or some bodies out in space where like they're just full of rare metals or even diamonds or whatever? It's like, when's that whole era going to begin of spacecraft going out there?
Oh, you're totally right. Yeah, probably after we're around.
Yeah.
It'll totally happen.
Yeah. Oh man, great ship. Love the shiny coins. And
I'm super excited for the season finale next week.
And before we talk next time, I will be watching the National Geographic documentary on the Black Swan. Just incredible. And maybe I'll even get to see some of those flunkies from Odyssey Marine interviewed on camera.
Yeah, sorry to touch a nerve.
I already have a lot of animus, but
look forward to the ship you'll be presenting. What will be the final episode of season 3. It will be episode 12. Looking forward to it next week.
Can't wait.
All right, we'll see you in a week.
Life life jackets are stored in overhead racks on the second deck.